Hi, my name is Brandon Lontock, and I'm doing a presentation on a paper about bats. Mm. In this presentation, I'm going to be talking about bats and the ability to resist diseases and illnesses. Um, why study bats? The purpose to study other bats' genomes was determine the cause of bats being not infected with different viruses and diseases, but for some reason they don't have any symptoms. Uh, Bats are weird, where the people know them for taking um, no side effects from being filled with diseases, and it's dangerous sometimes to interact with them, like eat them, because you could get a bunch of diseases and viruses. But yet bats seem to be fine and don't seem to suffer any symptoms. So the person who did the research for this paper was Arianda Elmoels. She's an evolutionary biologist at the Institute of Evolutionary Science of Montpellier and American Montpellier and American Museum of Natural History. Um, and she studies bats, mostly bat genomes, and she was doing this study to go help people figure out why you want to understand bats and to understand why they don't get sick and why we might want to use that for humans. So, what makes bats bats? Um, Bats fly, and that's really weird for mammals in the first place. But another thing that is really weird about them is that they generate a lot of heat, like a lot of heat even for other mammals, where their body temperature can reach up to 107 degrees Fahrenheit when flying, which is considered a really high fever and really high for other mammals. Um, and this is due to them generating a lot of friction and heat just from flying and moving, and them having a really high metabolism. Um, this also is paired with the antiviral genes. Apparently, they have a lot of antiviral genes as used to combat against viruses. And this is what allows them to not have very many symptoms when they're being affected. DNA was sampled from tissues from the Royal Ontario Museum of Mammal Collections. They used the tissues to get their genome sequenced so they can look at the different sequences of antiviral genes, and they put them into a database, and they compared the infection rates of other bats and mammals with that also had their sequences put into the database. The bats that they researched was the group of horseshoe bats, old world self leaf nose bats, and flying foxes, and they did multiple species in each one. And then this is about the asymptomatic bats. Bats were host. So bats when hosting a virus don't have inflammatory responses, um, which is not like other mammals or just animals in general, where they'll have a strong response when they get sick, while bats seem to have no response. They have a high metabolic rate because of power of flight, which I said increases the body temperature. Uh, this uh, this activates their immune system and makes them more tolerant to viral infections. Um, and a bunch of the species that they researched was researched in Asia. The genes that they specifically looked at were the The this one, I don't know how to say that. The size 78 lacking. Uh, that is the specimen that they took. It was the ISG 15 from those species of bats. The Rhinophlinidae. I'm not going to pronounce all the different species of bats, but they tested each of the genes and see how viral resilient they were. It showed that they produced an antiviral protein, uh, and it was apparently really fast evolving compared to other mammals, where they performed better at fighting viruses than other mammal genomes. This is one of the graphs or many graphs from the paper. Um, the one that I wanted to focus on is D and E down at the bottom over here, where it lists different immune genes that they tested in each of these different mammal genome sequences. And as you can see, the bats seem to have more genes, which bats are on this very end of this list of different mammals. Uh, in their column, it shows that they have a lot more, or what's it called? Genes that are used to fight viral infections compared to other mammals, where some don't even have very many, or not enough to be listed the on the graph, where bats seem to be doing fairly well compared to all the others. And then this other graph that was also on there was showing like the pool of viruses or the viruses and the different populations of different species of mammals, where an A and B is comparing different populations of rodents and bats, and it showed that rats weren't carrying as many diseases as other species, and as like bats, where bats have a higher uh infection rate, but yet bats were still doing pretty fine. Um, in graph E, it is comparing the species sequences genomes, which are here is down here, where the blue is showing uh the complete sequence and understood genomes of different species of bats, and then the gray is uh the missing sequences, and then the orange is mutations. Uh, and they were using this. It shows the genome's completeness and accuracy by checking ancestral mammal genes. They were comparing different mammals to see like if uh, bats got these different genes from flight, or if they were all from other mammals and they lost them over time. But it seems like a bunch of these genes appeared in bats. And there's a family tree that shows the relationships of different species of other bats, and they're trying to link it to maybe the bats are more closely related to each other, were the ones that share the most similar genes um, that allow them to be resistant to viruses. And these are my sources. And yeah, that was the whole presentation. Thank you for watching.